Hi friends, today we're going to be talking about weather and climate tools. How do we measure our weather? And we have a foldable here, and it looks like this inside. I'm actually going to zoom out so you are able to see the whole thing. I have it stretched out this way, and the first thing I'm going to do is take the corner by the calculator and fold it over to right next to the snowflakes till where it barely touches. Make sure that "Can we predict the weather" is not covered. You're going to move it enough to where you can see "Can we predict the weather." Then after that, you're going to take this corner and you are going to put it up to the same corner that you folded. So these two corners meet. And then you're going to take this corner and you're going to fold it in half. So go ahead and fold that. You might have to rewind so you can fold it properly and then come on back. All right, now we are going to be starting on our notes on the weather and climate tools. Weather and climate tools we use to determine the condition of the air outside. Now the difference between weather is the current condition of the air outside, and climate is a pattern of weather in a certain part of the world. So what is our weather today? Our weather today was cloudy, and it was nice and cool for our area anyway. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is predicting the weather. Can we predict the weather? Now let's think about meteorologists. Those are the people on the news that predict the weather. So how do we do that? We can predict the weather. Is it always correct? No, but we can use patterns to predict the weather. So tools help us make predictions by studying trends or what happens over time. How do we study those trends? The first thing we have to do is find out the measurements of certain kinds of weather. So here are our tools. Weather tools measure daily conditions of the atmosphere. That is definition of weather, the condition of the atmosphere, the current condition of the atmosphere, and a weather tool will measure that. So a rain gauge actually measures the amount of rainfall, and it's basically a cup with lines on it that measure, and it collects water. You look at how high it goes, and that's the amount of rain. My water. Usually you put it outside. I actually have a rain gauge and it is on a pole in my front yard. And so we can go in and we can measure how much water we got or rain we got that time by looking at the level of the rain. A thermometer measures the temperature of the air. There are two units that you could use to measure temperature, and that is Fahrenheit, which is what we use in the United States, and there is Celsius, which is used in science and the majority of the world. So that would be degrees Fahrenheit or degrees Celsius. Modern day thermometers have Fahrenheit on one side or Celsius on another. If they're digital, you can select what you're measuring in. But it is very important to see which one you are measuring because there is a large difference, especially when you're talking about higher temperatures. Now, a hygrometer measures the amount of water vapor in the air. It's measuring how humid something is. Put this here, measures. So humidity is the water vapor in the air. I'm going to write here how humid. Usually it's a percentage of humidity. The higher the percentage, the more humid it is. The lower the percentage, the less water vapor is in the air. Now, a wind vane you might have seen on top of barns or houses, and they move with the wind. The arrow moves as the wind blows. It determines the wind direction. So wherever the wind is blowing, it will be pointing. It does not measure the wind speed. Another tool does that. This just determines which way the wind is blowing. A wind speed would be an anemometer. An anemometer measures wind speed. It has these little cups right here, and the air goes in and spins it around with the cups, and the faster it spins, the faster the air is going. So this measures wind direction. This measures wind speed. If it's not spinning, there's no wind. And they use miles per hour. You may have heard about weather balloons. Weather balloons, they are balloons with some tools on them. They collect data over a large area. So the balloon is let go. It goes along with the wind. It measures data, and it's sent to a scientist or a meteorologist to see the data that is collected. Most of these tools are in a small area. The wind vane can only measure the wind's direction in one place. The thermometer can only measure it in one place. But a weather balloon can go from a large distance, and it could show our data over a large area. A barometer measures pressure, if it is high or low pressure. Usually the lower the pressure, the stronger a storm. So especially where we are in Florida, we have to look at hurricanes. So when we look at the barometric pressure using a barometer, the lower the barometric pressure, the stronger the storm is. I definitely keep that in mind when we have a storm coming. We also talked about satellites when we did our solar system unit. A weather satellite, remember the definition of satellite is something that orbits around a planet. So a weather satellite is something that orbits around the planet that takes care of finding weather. It photographs and tracks large-scale movements such as hurricanes. would be the weather satellite. All right, now climate tools are what they measure averages over a long period of time. Okay, so we're going to write that definition down. Measures averages over long periods of time. So you take a lot of data and you have a lot of different data points of weather, and then what you do is you take those measurements for a certain amount of days, a long period, so a lot of days, and you take that information and try to find a trend. For example, down in Florida, we are typically warm, so if you were to look at the temperatures over a long period of time, you would find that we are usually warm. So our climate is typically warm, and very humid, getting a little bit cooler when it is around December to February. Okay, a calculator can give you the average of the daily weather data. Computers can make graphs, see trends and patterns. Graphs and charts to see patterns. It's called trends. And then the graphs, charts, data, and info, they help to analyze the data. Once you put it all together in a chart or a visual representation, then you're able to actually see if there are any relationships or not. So these are the weather and climate tools that you'll be needing to know how they work and what they measure. We have the rain gauge, measures rain. Thermometer measures temperature. Hygrometer measures humidity or water vapor. Wind vane determines wind direction. And the anemometer measures wind speed. Weather balloon collects a lot of data. Barometer measures pressure, and the weather satellite tracks large movements.